Good morning, Flosstube. I'm Misty Purcell. Welcome to my channel. I am a designer of cross-stitch patterns and I dye cross-stitch fabric under the name Luminous Fiber Arts. Today is Friday, October 23rd. How have you been? It's good to be back here. Hope you've been well. I just want to say how much I appreciated all of your really nice comments on my last video. They meant a lot to me and they were very comforting and very kind. So I know that it's hard to know what to say when someone's going through a difficult time, but everything you said was really meaningful and it meant a lot to me, and it was just the right thing to say, so thank you. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about some new designs that I'm releasing for Christmas and a couple of other things that I've been working on and some personal stitching, some recreational stitching as I like to call it when it's not my design. So, I did make a recent Stitch With Me video. If you haven't seen that, it's demoing the pin stitch start and the loop method start. So that was a fun thing to do. I appreciated all of the comments. I'm glad that it was helpful to you. But if you haven't seen it, you might like to check that out. And I really liked doing that video because sometimes when I make regular Flosstube videos, since I'm designing a lot, I don't always have a lot of stuff to show. So it was a way for me to still be in contact with you and hang out with you a little bit when I didn't necessarily have something to share that I've been stitching. So I think I will be doing more, not necessarily that I'll always have a demo of something because there's only so many things to demo, but I think I would like to do more Stitch With Me videos. Okay, so a couple of shout outs first of some new Flosstubers. So one is my friend Kim Goldman. I've met Kim through Instagram and YouTube, and she's very sweet, and she started making videos, and I'm so glad that she did. She and I have done some Zoom calls, which has been really fun, and you know, she's just like in her Zoom calls and her videos, and she does some beautiful projects, so please check her out and give her a welcome. And I've also watched the first video of Mary Ashcraft. I think she's got 4 videos now. I'm not good at keeping up with all the videos yet, so but I did see her first one. It was very nice, and I hope you'll check her out too and give her a welcome. So those are 2 Flosstubers for you to check out, and I will link them below in the description. Alrighty, let's talk about my new Christmas designs. So let's start with the one that I have on top because that's the easiest. So this is the pattern for Christmas Bird Trio. It is a leaflet, and you can see I've got the templates for it. So let's talk about Christmas Bird Trio. We've got little blue jay wearing a scarf because it's cold. And then we've got a chickadee wearing Santa's hat. Did I show the other one too fast? I'm sorry. Let me go back and give you a closer look. Here we got a little side by side. And lastly, there's a little wren holding a candy cane. I love wrens. They're one of my favorite birds. I like their song, which is kind of a trilling sound, and their little tails, how they stick up when they kind of run around. They always just look excited and cute. So I had to put a wren in here. I've been wanting to stitch a wren for a really long time. So I haven't gotten around to stitching anyone else's patterns, but I was like, well, if I design it, then I have to stitch it. So that's how that worked. These were stitched on 32 count soft sea linen, which is a color that I dye. And I used 2 colors of over dyed floss. I used Weeks Dye Works Bayberry, and was it Ribbon Red for Classic Colorworks? Let me check. No, Licorice Red, sorry. Licorice Red was the Classic Colorworks, and then everything else is DMC. There are several colors because the birds all have different colors in them. I do include a DMC conversion on all of my charts. So all of the things that I'm showing you today, if you don't stitch with over-dyed floss, you can still stitch them, and the charts have that information for you. The stitch count is one higher or wider one way than the other. Let me tell you that it's not a typo. It is actually not a perfect circle in a sense. It is 56 high by 57 wide, just so that all the motifs could fit in. And I made the inner circle here 3.5 inches, and the outer circle is a 4-inch circle. And I include templates in the pattern for you. I also really like, this is what I do because I'm kind of a big fan of circular and rounded ornaments in general. And so I have one of those Fiskars plastic templates that has several different circle sizes on it, and I love just using that to make my mat board cutting really fast. So I just trace the circle size onto my mat board and I cut it out with scissors. I find that it's easier to cut if you kind of cut the area already around the circle a little bit so that your scissors aren't trying to go through like a really long section. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but try to cut away as much excess as possible around the circle before you try cutting the circle out, and then the circle is more smooth to cut. The pom-pom trim is Snow from Lady Dot Creates. On flat ornaments, I don't remove the poms from the tape because they can be separated. I just glue, it gives me something to work with to glue it down. So I did not detach these pom-poms. If I'm doing like a pillow finish, then I remove the pom-poms. One other thing I want to say about this fabric is that Soft Sea, a while ago, the dye company where I buy my dye from announced that cerulean, I think it is, cerulean blue, is not available any longer. Like the components to make that dye are no longer, there's not enough of them to make the dye. And that dye is used in various other dye colors. So I had checked initially and didn't see that my dyes were affected. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, or maybe they didn't have it all listed at the time. But the dye that I use to make this color is affected. And so right now I have some dye left, but the dye is not currently being made until they reformulate it. And because of the current world situation, they don't know when they're going to get to that. So I do have some dye. I will be able to dye Soft Sea for a while longer, but there might come a time when I cannot dye Soft Sea, so I'm just letting you know. This ribbon is from Hobby Lobby. I really like it. It's super cute because it's got this like white stitching on it, and so I include that information in the pattern, but here's a spool of it just so you can see. It's from the Ribbon Boutique. And you can actually buy this from Hobby Lobby's website even, if you don't have one near you or you don't want to go into the store. The Jingle Bell, this matte white Jingle Bell, I got that from Michael's last year. I'm sure they'll have them again. They usually have like a really nice selection of Jingle Bells. And this is the back in case you want to see. I just did like a kind of a nice simple red fabric, and that's what's here as well. So I had designed these last year. I started designing them. I had the chickadee I had the blue jay in a different design. It wasn't quite coming together, and I thought, well, maybe I just need to take the blue jay out of that design. So I did, and then I thought, well, maybe I just need a simple little ornament. And then it was fun for me to come up with, well, okay, what other birds and accessories can I put in this ornament? And so that's how that design came together. I just wanted something small and really happy and cute that would be relatively quick and, you know, a nice addition to your Christmas tree. So that is Christmas Bird Trio. All of the designs that I'm showing you today are available from your needle workshop, and they are also available now in my Etsy shop. So lots of possibilities. You can pick wherever you'd like to shop and purchase them. And I hope you'll love them as much as I do. They were a lot of fun to design. Okay, so next on the pile is Noel Rouge So this is a set of several designs. Let's talk about all of them. It started with an ornament, which I think is super sweet. This is stitched with Classic Colorworks Ribbon Red. I stitched this one on 40 count, white Zweigart linen. You don't have to stitch it on 40 count just because I did. I just felt like stitching on 40 count. Sometimes I feel that way and that's what I do. I do whatever I feel like doing. I love 40 count, so that's what I did. The other one was 32. I go back and forth. I love them both. So one strand of floss. This was a lot of fun. It's nice sometimes to do something that's just one color because it's more mindless and fast. So I got this done pretty quickly. I wanted something that felt very, like I was in the mood to stitch something that felt kind of Scandinavian, and I was going to look for a pattern to buy. And then I was like, hello, you are a designer. You can design something, right? And so then I made a deal with myself that I would try to design something, and then if it turned out really badly, I was allowed to buy someone else's pattern, but if it turned out well, I would obviously stitch it. And it actually turned out well, so that made me happy. So I started with this ornament, and then I was just having a really good time designing this and playing around with ideas. So after I designed the ornament, I designed a pillow. And then I was like, well, which one do I release? And then I was like, well, I can't choose between these. I just have to release both of them. So if you follow me on social media like Instagram or Facebook, I posted and I said something about how, you know, do I add pom-poms to something I'm working on or not? And people were voting. Most people voted yes to the pom-poms. A few people were like, no. And so I kind of went I took the easy route, which is to say that I made pom-poms that are detachable. I do like them, so I don't feel the need to remove them, but I have the option to remove them. This is again stitched on 40 count white Zweigart linen using one strand. It says Peace on Earth here, and then you've got the deer looking at a little bird friend, and they're peaceful together. So I don't know, because I guess I was thinking of one of the things that inspired, two of the things that inspired these designs were knitting, because I do Fair Isle knitting and weaving. So some of the motifs you see here are inspired by those things. And then I was thinking about Scandinavian things and knitting, and that's how I came up with the idea of these pom-poms. I wasn't sure if it would look good or not. And so what I ended up doing was making two pom-poms and tying them together, making a little bow. And then I've got one of these, I use them on my fabric for labeling, little gourd pin that's red. I had to buy a red one. And the gourd pin is stuck into the pin cushion, or into the pillow, and then these are just dangling from it, but it's easy to remove. Both of these are using Brick House pom-pom trim from Lady Dot Creates. Brick House is one of my favorites of her pom-pom trims. And because these are pillows, I did remove the tape from the pom-poms, and I whip stitched the pom-poms down onto the pillows as my last step. For the pom-poms, oh man, I didn't remember to bring it down. Let me go grab that. Okay, so the large pom-poms, I used they're the smallest size, but I'm talking about the pom-poms, not the pom-pom trim now. I used the smallest size Clover pom-pom maker to make these pom-poms. You couldn't use a fork. These are just nice and fast and kind of fun to play around with. So a couple tips about making pom-poms. You want to put a lot of yarn on your pom-pom maker. After you've made your pom-pom, you want to get your steam iron out and give it some shots of steam on the pom-pom and kind of fluff it up. And then you'll get a really nice puffy pom-pom if you want pom-poms. So that's that. Just to show you, the ornament is finished with a button on the back. This was a vintage button that I picked up at the Street of Shops in Lewisburg. So you can see that this actually coordinates with the Christmas birds. I use the same fabric. This ribbon is from Michael's, and I include the information about it in the pattern. Same back here. And then I still couldn't stop there. I had this idea last Christmas that I wanted to design. I was thinking of a baby's first Christmas stocking. And so I was still thinking about that idea, but instead of it being a baby's first Christmas stocking, it just became a Christmas stocking, but a small one. So I designed a stocking, and I put my niece's name, one of my nieces, my niece Madison, I put her name on it. So this is what it looks like when it hangs. This is also stitched on 40 count white Zweigart linen using 1 strand of floss, same floss. And I wanted this to be fillable, so I wanted to make it lined. Here's the back. I did do a different back on this because the red, I didn't want to risk any red showing through on the front even with it being lined. So I went with something that was in my stash that I thought would be less likely to show through. And then the lining I just used for this one, because I was using white fabric, I just used a white lining. But you could totally stick like some little gifts in here. You could put the name of someone you love if you wanted to stitch it as a gift. Again, I used a button here. Same bow and ribbon, except I used the narrow one. Did I do that for this too? Yeah, no, I did a wider one. So for this one, I used all of the wide ribbon. This one I used, it looked better to do wide ribbon for the bow and the narrower ribbon for the hanger. The pattern includes, the pattern includes an alphabet so that you can change the name. You could also make just like a word across here that you like: joy, peace, love, anything you want with the alphabet. There's also a version of the stocking where things are shifted a little bit so that there's no name here and there's no words, like if you just want a stocking and you don't want it to say anything. So there's a version like that. So the pattern includes the ornament, the pillow, the alphabet, stocking with name, stocking with no name. Also includes detailed finishing instructions of how to make the stocking. I figured the pillows are pretty straightforward and most people can do that or find tutorials, but I wasn't sure how confident people were about making a stocking. Honestly, I wasn't. The general process, yes, but my main concern was like keeping everything even, this little outline here, even around the stocking. That was a little bit tricky. So I had to do some testing. I also didn't want it to get too wrinkled. So I made, to try to get the spacing right, I don't know if I made like 6 stockings or 4 stockings. I don't know. I did a bunch of tests before I did this, which I'm glad I did. You could also do that too. If you're nervous about doing this, you could just trace the outline of the stitching, take some fabric you haven't stitched on, and do a test one. That's what I did. I did all these test ones that had no stitching on them, and I was just trying to make sure like how things looked, and then I would hold it up over my actual stitched piece and just see spatially how that was working. It was helpful to have a light box. You can use a window though. So let me show you some more examples and tell you a little bit more about it. I love this. This was so much fun to design. I just wanted to have something that felt very classic and happy and comforting and sweet. So you don't have to stitch it on white. Here's a version of the ornament stitched on my fabric Sparrow. And I think this looks maybe a little bit more prim. So if prim is more your style, this might be a good choice for you, Sparrow, or something like Vintage Country Mocha. This was, again, 40 count, same floss. And then this was stitched by my model stitcher, Paige. Paige did a wonderful job. Thank you, Paige. So this is the version with no name on it. This is stitched on 32 count using 2 strands. This is also Sparrow. Looks very nice. Now for this one, I used a different print on the back that I thought coordinated really well, just a nice simple one. And then the inside, I wanted to do something again that kind of was a little bit more interesting. So I did you can't really see it that well, but it's like a pretty floral print, same colors. So again, this would be, if you want something that looks maybe a little bit more prim, this could be a good option. I think this would look really pretty with only green floss or only blue floss on white or another color fabric, and I would love to see it stitched on like a gingerbread color fabric, maybe with white or cream. I think that could be really cool. I only had so much time to try out. I did a lot of options here and I only had so much time, but I would love to see it. So if you try other ways of stitching it, I would love to see that because I think that's just super cool. Let me tell you one more thing. Okay, so the pattern includes the template for the stocking, and here's what it looks like so you can see. I've got a template for 32 count and 40 count stockings. Now, if you stitch on a different, now 32 count would also be 16 count. So if you're an Aida stitcher, 16 count, or 40 count on Aida would be 20. I thought this would be a simple enlarge or reduce situation with your copier so that you could just easily do that with your template. But it isn't. The proportions change. So you can play around with it if you want, but just so you know that the template is not easy to enlarge or reduce without losing the proportions a little bit. So it's easier to use what's already there, I would say. Although you can, I mean, I did actually make these by just drawing around the stitching. So you can actually make your own template without that much trouble. But those are some options. Is there anything else I wanted to say about that? I think that was all I wanted to say about that. Very, very excited about that little set. I think it's so fun and cute. And on the back of the pattern, I show the alternate color option for you. Okay, so next. Okay, so one last thing I wanted to show you, because I just thought you might find it interesting. Sometimes I design things and they look good, you know, even the model up to the point of finishing the stitching, and then I'm kind of like, eh. So that happened with Christmas Bird Trio. All right, so here's the final version, and here is a prototype version that wasn't intended to be a prototype, but it just didn't quite work out. Very similar. I did this one on green and the border is different. So when I finished this, like I liked it all the way up until about the end. And then when I finished it, I was like, it just doesn't seem quite right. And I asked my friend, you know, why doesn't this seem quite right? And she's like, well, I think the bird needs more space. It's too squished. And I realized that she was right. When I tried to take this border and expand it to give the bird more breathing room, it didn't work anymore. So I had to make a new border. And in the end, you know, I'm much happier with this, but you can see that, you know, this is all just a process. So also it would look cute stitched on green. So anyway, a little bit about my process. It's not perfect. Stuff goes wrong sometimes and you have to rethink things. Okay, Felice Navidad. I've shown this before, but if you're new here, you might not have seen it. This was a exclusive this summer for Christmas in July. And now I have it and other shops have it as well. So here it is. So cute. I designed this after talking to a shop owner at Market, and she was a yarn shop owner who did some cross stitch. And right around that time, my friend was also, a friend from grad school was expecting a baby. And so just thinking about what would appeal to a knitter who stitches, and then thinking about my friend having a baby, you know, something cute and sweet. That's how this design was born. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is stitched with 2 strands of floss on 32 count. I think it's Relic. Let me make sure that's correct. Yes, Relic by Picture This Plus. And this uses a small number, I think 6 over dyed flosses. Well, I can just tell you by looking at the pattern. Yes. Classic Colorworks Snowball, Ribbon Red, Black Coffee, Peanut Brittle, and Brown Sugar, and Weeks Dye Works Grasshopper. And then some DMC colors as well. And this is using Brick House Mini Pom Pom Trim from Lady Creates, the same ribbon that I used on Christmas Bird Trio from Hobby Lobby. And then there's a little snowflake charm from Mill Hill. And then you can see the back. So Pictureless Plus fabric is difficult to get a hold of right now. I don't have any in my shop. I'm still waiting on an order from a while ago, and it's just how things are going right now. You know, there's shortages of dye and shortages of fabric. Everybody's just doing the best they can. I would suggest, if you can't get a hold of Relic, you could try using something a little bit more brown and less yellow, such as Vintage Country Mocha, or if you have Sparrow or my other fabric, Opulence, that could be a good option for this. You could even go, if you wanted something that looked a little bit more contemporary, I think a blue, like Soft Sea, could be really pretty with this. So I think lots of options here. I think this is a really versatile design. I've got the charm on order, but I don't have it in yet. I do have floss packs still for this one, if you need them. I'm out of floss packs for the other designs, so I'll have to reorder. So, sweet little sheep for your sheep lovers. Oh, I did want to say that this is backstitched, and there's a Smyrna cross, and that can all be done on Aida. There's nothing here that you can't do on Aida. Any of these designs that I've just shown can all easily be stitched on Aida, no problem. Okay, so let's talk about my recreational stitching. So if you've been following along with me for a while, you'll know that I've been working on Autumn Samplers, and I'm stitching this piece from Autumn Samplers by Prairie Schooler. I'll show it a little closer for you. And this is available from Hoffman. It's been reprinted, so it's not on the cardstock, it's on the regular paper. I was just lucky to find a cardstock version at I think it was an antique shop. Okay, so here's where I am. I've made some progress. I finished this maple leaf, and then I've started stitching this vine. One thing I discovered, I've mentioned in my last video that I'm changing down here. There's going to be some words. And as I was charting this so that I could figure out where the words would fit, I noticed that some of these little bumps aren't the same length, and also some of the squirrels aren't all the same. So just a heads up that you do have to pay attention. But I think this is just really beautiful. So this is stitched all in DMC using one strand of floss over 2 fabric threads on 40 count linen. This is my colorway Sparrow. I just work on this in between designs basically. So right now I'm about to be in between models that I've designed, like stitching them. I'm about to do a floss pull. And so since I don't have anything I need to be stitching on, I'm going to work on this for a little bit until I've decided my floss. And one thing I was watching, when I was watching Kim Goldman's second video, she was talking about having trouble deciding. She wanted to change, it's a Christmas Garden by Blackbird Design. She wanted to change it to pink. And Kim, I haven't said this to you yet, but I was going to comment on your video to tell you this. One thing that you could try doing if you're having trouble deciding if floss is going to work, this is how I do it for designing. I mean, I pull the floss colors that I think I'm going to use, and if I've got like 10, let's say I'm doing what Kim's doing and I want to use pink, but I can't decide which pink or whatever, I'll pull like all the pinks that I think could work, and all the colors that I know I'm going to use, you know, go into the pile, and then I start putting the pinks in with them to see how they look with my fabric and everything. And I just let it sit for days and look at it. And eventually I can start to make decisions, and I start pulling things out that aren't working, and I can usually narrow it down. And then if I still am undecided about a shade of a color, I'll start stitching with the flosses I know I want. And then as I get to that color that I think I'm going to use, I'll pick one of the, let's say I had like 2 choices of pink that I couldn't decide between. I'll use one of them and I'll start stitching it and see how it looks with everything on the fabric. And if it looks good, I use that one. And if it doesn't look good, I take it out and I use the other one. So it's kind of like narrowing it down slowly, and that can be less overwhelming than trying to decide all at once, you know, because you just make it a process, and that seems to work well for me. So that's a suggestion for you, Kim. Sorry to use you as a guinea pig. And for anyone else who's struggling to decide about changing floss. That's what I do anyway. That works pretty well for me. And sometimes the color that I think is going to work, once I get stuff on there, it doesn't work and I have to change it. And that's just part of the process. Okay, so other than stitching, I've been doing a couple craft projects. Let's talk about yarn trees. And then we'll talk about bottle brush trees. My mom came to visit. And I grew up very crafty with my mom, but my mom doesn't do a lot of crafts now. But she was in the mood. We were looking at things on Pinterest, and she was in the mood to try this craft where we were looking at making your own bottle brush trees and making your own yarn trees. The yarn trees seemed a bit easier, although we did go and buy, I think it's pronounced sisal, but I haven't actually looked up the pronunciation. It's S-I-S-A-L. It's a fiber that is used to make bottle brush trees, and I think it comes from agave. Anyway, we bought some rope of that fiber, which you can undo and then make your own bottle brush trees, but it smelled and it's been airing out for a while now. We'll see if it still stinks. Apparently that's how you know it's really what it is, the smell. But we decided to try making some trees out of yarn using the same tutorial, because there are tutorials about how to make your own trees out of yarn that are like bottle brush trees, except they're yarn trees. So I'll show you what I made. I've got like a vintage spool here. I've got a little thread hanging off. I'm undecided if I'm going to leave the thread on here, though I think it looks good, or if I'm going to take it off and put maybe some scrapbook paper. So this was made using Harrisville Shetland, which is a fingering weight yarn, and like a pom-pom in many ways. We bought, you don't have to do it this way, but we bought foam cones because it would already be kind of tree shaped. We wrapped the yarn around them and then put them between the two pieces of wire, twist them. That's the hard part. And then trimming is also the hard part, like getting it to look like a tree. So I steamed this after I was done, and then it still wasn't quite good enough. So one of the tutorials shows like a pet brush, and we ended up buying a pet brush and just brushing the tree carefully to get it a little bit fuzzier. And then I used hot glue for this one. So I can still see the glue there, and I think I might try to put some fake snow around this so it's covered up, or a bow or something. But that's one of the trees that I made out of yarn. My mom was like, we need to go buy some yarn. And I'm like, no, Mom, I have a stash. We are not buying yarn. Like, I'm sure I have wool that we can use. This green. This is tree number 2. My mom and I collect old children's wooden toy blocks. So I happen to like the letters the most, the A or the Z. This one is worsted weight yarn. This was something I bought for, I don't know, a hat or something. I'm not sure what I bought it for now. And it just was like kind of multicolored. So this one, I used Gorilla Glue, and we drilled a hole, like a pilot hole kind of, into the block. And then I used Gorilla Glue to glue it in. And it was a little bit hard. I mean, obviously it took longer, and it was a little bit harder to get it to stand up the way I wanted it to. But that's that. So that was a fun little experiment and craft project to do with my mom. She made a couple trees as well. Now let me show you my bottle brush trees, because what I had really wanted to do was dye some bottle brush trees. My mom wasn't super into it, but I was like, I don't know, maybe because I'm a fabric dyer, I'm like, yes. I don't want to make the tree. I just want to dye the tree. So after she left, there's like a ton of tutorials about how to do this online. After she left, I got some trees. I looked for some dye while she was here, and you know, RIT dye used to be plentiful, but right now I guess everyone's tie-dyeing everything, and you can't get it that easily. So I was able to find like a little bit of RIT dye, and I had a little bit of RIT dye, but I had to order some. Anyway, let's just look at the trees. So basically you bleach, I bought some trees at Michael's, you bleach them, and then you put them in the dye. So first let me show you the one that would not bleach. It did get lighter and actually quite like this color because it's very minty. This one would not bleach. All the other trees bleached, but not this one. I don't know why. I thought maybe, I've heard that they can be made of other things than the sisal, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. but I don't know, it seems the same as the others except that it wouldn't bleach. So this one just looks cool, but I did not dye it. Then I started with my dye. This was, I think this was peacock green. And I don't think this was even in there a minute, maybe a minute. So there's that. And I did different sizes. One thing that I discovered is that the very small, like tiny bottle brush trees, if you put them in bleach, they will rust like right away. So I bought some that are undyed or cream colored, and I'm going to try dyeing those and hoping they don't rust, but bleaching them is apparently not an option. Then I added a little bit of yellow to my peacock. So for comparison, very fun. And then lastly, I added more yellow. I think they're so pretty. So I'm really happy with how they turned out, and I want to do more. So I ordered more trees. I ordered a couple more colors of dye that are more blue, so I can get some more blue, kind of minty green, like kind of like that. I might do a pink one. I've mentioned this before, I think, but my one of my favorite Christmas scenes is the tree lot from Charlie Brown Christmas. I love all those colored trees so much. Like every time we get to that scene, I'm just so happy. Now, I don't think that with my Christmas decor that would actually look good. Like to have an orange tree and a pink tree. I'm just not sure that would work. So I might have to stick with blues and greens, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to try making my own tree lot. I'm thinking it might look good with gingerbread houses. And I've got some of those gingerbread houses from Target from last year. So once the Halloween gets put away, which won't be too long from now, I'm going to be experimenting with my vignettes, my Christmas vignettes. All right, so that's all my craftiness. Just a couple of things. Right after I showed you this last time that I finished this, and I was commenting how people should email Hoffman to let them know they want this reprinted. Then Hoffman like reprinted it. I don't know. Hoffman and I were like having a mind meld. So this is now available. I think I've still got a couple copies left in my shop. And if you're new here, this was stitched on 25 count vintage country mocha. You don't need to stitch it on that. I did it over one because I just thought it would be fun because I like doing tiny stuff. But the models were actually stitched on 18 count Aida. Like a gray Aida, but you can't tell from the picture. Very nice. So I thought I would have this finished by now, and I've just been too busy. So it's high on the priority list. I got to get a couple more things done before I can finish it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is, so I had a shop update with the new designs. So all of them are there in my shop. I had a fabric update as well. The only thing that I have left in terms of fabric right now is soft pumpkin. So this is what it looks like on even weave, and it's a bit darker if you get it on linen. So I've got just a little bit of that left. And once it's gone for this year. I only dye it in like September and October usually. So just to let you know that that's there, but it's limited. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Oh, no. Okay, so the thing about my newsletter that I wanted to say, I've got something special coming up pretty soon. So think about signing up for my newsletter. It's linked below my video. There's going to be kind of a surprise coming up next month. So people who are on the newsletter get previews and first information plus reminders of when shop updates are happening. So I hope you'll sign up for the newsletter, and I hope that the information that's coming up will be something that you are excited about as I am. Okay, so I wanted to do a giveaway of my new patterns. So you can enter to win the giveaway by saying which of the patterns you'd like to win, or if you want to mention all of them, you can. You'll only be eligible to win one, but you can choose from Felice Navidad. Just say the pattern name. Okay, Christmas Bird Trio or Noel Rouge. So I'll pick a winner for each pattern. The giveaway will close on Halloween. So the last day to enter the giveaway will be Halloween. And you need to comment saying which of the patterns you would like to win. I will select winners randomly using the random comment selector after Halloween. So on November 1st, I will select a winner for each one, and then I will comment on their comment to let them know that they've won. And please do not mention giveaway. Please be 18 or older. You can enter even if you do not live in the United States. You're eligible. And the thing that's important is that you comment on this video and that you don't try to enter the giveaway elsewhere, because I won't be able to count your comment if you say something to me like in a message somewhere. So only comment on this video to be eligible to enter the giveaway. Okay guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and I really enjoy reading your comments. I try to reply when I can. Even when I can't, I read them and they mean a lot to me. I mean, they're why I do these videos. It's to connect with you. So I will be back fairly soon, and I hope you have a good few weeks in the meantime. Take care. Bye-bye.